The NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament Committee absolutely robbed the Big Ten in favor of the SEC and a shaky North Carolina bid. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button so you never miss a single episode. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. Well, the Big Ten was robbed this weekend. Hey, hail to the victors, though. Michigan won the Big Ten tournament. We'll have our first analysis of the men's and women's NCAA tournament brackets, including all the Big Ten teams, and our top 10 observations from a very busy weekend. But first, the Big Ten was robbed. The Big Ten was robbed on Selection Sunday when the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee set its field of 68 for the men's basketball tournament. They only let in 8 teams from the Big Ten, and 2 of the first 4 out were Indiana and Ohio State, obviously Big Ten schools. Meanwhile, a record 14 SEC teams got in the tournament. That's every team in the conference except 2. What are we doing here? I knew they were going to get a lot. I don't have a problem with them getting a lot in, but that's ridiculous. So don't get me wrong on that. In fact, I'm betting on an SEC team to cut down the nets in April. Maybe a Florida, maybe an Auburn. Those teams have been awesome. They deserve everything they get. That conference had a great year. Again, do not get me wrong on any of this. Most of the teams are very deserving on getting into the tournament, but 14 of their 16? Come on, that's ridiculous. For the record, both the SEC and the Big Ten had an equal 7 teams ranked in the top 25. So let's take a closer look at what happened here. The last 4 in the field of 68, Texas, SEC team, Xavier, San Diego State, and North Carolina. When we're done with the SEC, we're going to look at that North Carolina bit. That was shaky at best. The first 4 out included Indiana and Ohio State, along with West Virginia and Boise State. Now, Indiana and Ohio State were far from perfect. All right. So look, they needed to win a couple more games. They would have made a much better case for themselves. I'm going to make the case for them anyway. Let's look at Texas getting in instead of one of those 2 teams. They finished in 14th place in the SEC. Hey, you know, a lot of people when you grow up say, hey, my school, we're number 1. Nobody says, hey, we're number 14. Nobody. 14th, 6 and 12 in conference play. Now, I don't care how good your conference is, and the SEC is a very good conference, loaded. When you lose twice as many games as you win, you can't justify putting that team in the tournament. You just can't. That's ridiculous. And we'll give, again, I'll give the upper echelon of the SEC their due, but the bottom part, that was a little shaky. Now, while I'm done with the SEC, I want to move on to the North Carolina bid from the ACC. Tar Heels got in. Every poll you looked at, they were on the outside looking in, going into this tournament. And just because they played Duke close without their best player in the ACC tournament doesn't do it for me. Look, again, Indiana was far from perfect, but they were the 9th place team in the Big Ten out of 18 teams. They were 10-10 in the conference, 19-13 overall. Look, Illinois and Oregon were the next 2 teams up in the standings for the Big Ten, tied for 7th. They were 12-8 in the league. They got 6 and 5 seeds, respectively. They were comfortably in the tournament. And we're just going to cut that off and put Indiana on the outside looking in. That was a little weird to me. But back to the specific Indiana-North Carolina comparison. If you don't think Indiana is good enough to get in, fine. I mean, again, they did not have a great year. But the Tar Heels got in with 1 quad 1 win on their resume. You know how many Indiana had? 4 quadruple the amount that North Carolina had. 4 quad 1 wins for Indiana. North Carolina had 1. The 4 quad 1 wins that Indiana had, including a win at number 2 seed Michigan State and a win versus 4 seed Purdue late in the year. North Carolina has no such resume to speak of. Not at all. And Indiana's only losses all year long came against quad 1 teams. Do you know that North Carolina had a quad 3 team beat them this year? Yeah. I'm telling you, the resume doesn't add up. Oh, and by the way, this year's tournament selection chair, North Carolina Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham. Good old Bubba. Now, he claimed on CBS that there's a process in place when he was on the CBS Sunday selection show that he recused himself from all North Carolina discussions. According to the numbers, in my opinion, clearly he did not. He had some influence, I would think. I can't explain why North Carolina's in the tournament. And while I'm at it, the CBS selection show on Sunday, the crew of Adam Zucker and Clark Kellogg and Jay Wright and Seth Davis, whom I generally like, they announced the field of 68. They got it all done. And every one of them at the table was all amazed that Indiana didn't get in, beside themselves, and that they got in over North Carolina. They also, we got questions coming up. So they go into the commercial break, teasing that they're going to talk to Cunningham and ask him the hard-hitting questions. And also sitting next to him was Vice Chair Keith Gill. No tough questions about why Indiana wasn't in there. In fact, when they came back from break, there were 3 questions total. All 3, they all wasted time. Every one of them, all 3 of the guys, when they started talking, well, first of all, great job and congratulations. It's a thankless task. You got to wasted all the time on that. All 3 of them. Once is enough. Once is too many. Just get to the interview. Get to the questions. And not one of them asked them about the disparity of the fact that North Carolina got in and Indiana did not. Just a bunch of vague talk about this new metrics that they were using that nobody understands, that IU was the in the group of the last 4 out, and that's the only time they got mentioned. No exact mention of resume. And typically in years past in these interviews, you would ask, hey, XYZ team did not get in. How come? Well, they did this and they didn't do this, and we compared them to this team and that team. None of that. None of it. I thought it was a very poor job by CBS. We've received much better out of them in years past. In the end, I would have liked to have seen maybe 9, maybe 10 Big Ten teams get in. 9, possibly. And I would have liked to have seen 12 teams, still giving them their due from the SEC, but not 14. Come on. It's ridiculous. I would argue that the ACC should have received 3 bids, not 4. North Carolina's not getting out of the play-in round on Tuesday night against San Diego State. North Carolina Wilmington has a better chance of advancing versus Texas Tech. Anyway, would love to hear from you on what you think. Am I way out there, Big Ten fans? Or have I got this dialed in? You let me know. By the way, while we're here talking about Sunday, congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines. They beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game on Sunday afternoon in what was a bit of a kind of a surprise matchup, I would say. First-year head coach Dusty May got his Wolverines. They won a defensive battle, 59-53. Was it a defensive battle or was it a bad basketball game? Can't really make up my mind. Vladimir Golden and Trey Donaldson each scored 11 points for the Wolverines to lead the way. You heard right, 11 leading score. The Wolverines did hold the Badgers. Badgers are a high-scoring, high-flying offense. Put a lot of points up. Michigan held them to 22% from the field. The Badgers launched 39 three-pointers. They made 7. It was that kind of day. A lot of back iron all day long. Michigan wasn't much better. They only made 32% from the field, just 9 of 33 three-pointers. A lot of clanging. The halftime score of this game had Wisconsin on top, 23-21. The season low outputs for both teams. Yes, that's right. 44 points total in the first half. If you had the under, you won. Imagine that, 44 points for a half. Both teams did make it into the NCAA tournament, so we'll see if their defenses travel with them and keep playing. Hey, be sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And share, like, and follow. And don't forget, you can check out our website, talkbig10.com, where all of our podcasts go. And there are links if you want to buy some school spirit merchandise for your favorite school. Shirts, t-shirts, hats, that sort of thing right there next to all of our podcasts. So feel free to check that out as well. All right. Now, in addition to Wisconsin and Michigan getting into the tournament, we'll look at when and where the entire Big Ten is playing in the NCAA tournament this week. We'll also take a look at how many Big Ten women's teams got in their tournament as well and look at their bracket as well. Plus, we'll have our top 10 Big Ten observations from a very busy weekend around the Big Ten. All that's coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated at all. With Factor, you get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes so you can fuel your body without the hassle of cooking. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen, and with 40 options across 8 dietary performance preferences each week, you can customize your menu to fit your goals, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. All these delicious items are ready for you, ready to go to meet you where you want to be as far as whatever kind of diet or what kind of routine you're on. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. And use the code FACTORPODCAST, and you'll get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Supply House. You can get the supplies that you need from the site made for skilled trades. It's called Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to get you, help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts and 400 top brands, you get exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, so now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies in just a few clicks. Use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Well, thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. Thank you so much, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you never miss an episode, and share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com, as well, with all of our podcasts and merchandise. All right, let's get into it. Let's chop it up with both the men's and the women's tournament, all the Big Ten teams involved. It all starts, we're not involved in any of the play-in games. They call them the first round, Tuesday and Wednesday. So Thursday, your first Big Ten team in action is Purdue at 12:40 Eastern time, 9:40 in the morning if you're on the West Coast. 12:40 on True TV, taking on 13 seed High Point. Purdue, the 4th seed. Purdue is a 9.5-point favorite in this game. Matt Painter's squad had a stretch where they lost 4 in a row in February, and they lost 6 of their last 9 games. So we'll keep an eye on them. Yeah, I know they had that big upset, the 1 versus 16 a couple of years ago. Hopefully they'll be able to move on here. And they are in the Midwest region. In the East region, we've got 14 seed Montana taking on 3 seed Wisconsin. That's at 1:30 on Thursday on TNT. The Badgers are 16.5-point favorite. Of course, they are the Big Ten tournament runner-ups. They can score, even though they did not show it against Michigan on Sunday. Montana, by the way, watch out. They won 14 of 15 games. In the Midwest region, we're still on Thursday now. 10 seed Utah State taking on 7 seed UCLA. Mick Cronin's crew, 4.5-point favorites. That game late. So we got a couple early games in the Big Ten in the tournament and a couple of Big Ten teams late. This should be advantageous to UCLA, right? 9:25 Eastern time. That's 6:25 their time, Pacific time. That'll be on TNT. UCLA with the number one scoring stingy defense in the Big Ten. In the South region, an even later game on Thursday. 12 seed UC San Diego taking on 5 seed Michigan. The Big Ten tournament champs. Michigan a 3.5-point favorite already early. That again, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. That might be advantageous for UC San Diego. Used to that late time. Who knows? First-year head coach Dusty May. A 17-win improvement from the Juwan Howard team he took over from last year. And the Titans from USC San Diego, they won 15 straight at one point. 30-4 coming into this. All right, on to Friday's action. Out of the West region, number 13 seed Grand Canyon. They've been in this show 3 years in a row, led by Bryce Drew. The Antelopes taking on the 4 seed Maryland Terps. Maryland is a 10.5-point favorite. That game is at 4:35 Eastern time on TBS. You heard of the Fab Five, right, with Michigan? Well, this is the Crab Five with Maryland. Highest scoring starting 5 in the country. Derek Queen, the freshman, big guy. Watch him for Maryland. Midwest region. Illinois comes in at the 6th seed. They wait because we'll have to find out if they play Texas or Xavier. That winner Wednesday night will take on the Fighting Illini at 9:45 Eastern time. A late one on CBS. Illinois has battled the illness and the injuries. Brad Underwood has had to use 7 different lineups since January 8th, but I'm wondering if they're going to pull it together right here. It might be a sleeper team to pick. Get them out of this first round and see what they can do. In the South region, 15 seed Bryant taking on 2 seed Michigan State. The Spartans, 18.5-point favorites, Big Ten regular season champs. That one is super late Friday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific on TBS. And Tom Izzo's Spartans have made the show in the tournament 27 straight years. They are 7-1 against power-ranked teams. The Bulldogs, by the way, Bryant, coached by Phil Martelli Jr. You've all heard of his father, Phil Martelli. Well, Phil Martelli Jr. is the coach of the Bryant Bulldogs. And an even later game on Friday night in the East region, 12 seed Liberty taking on 5 seed Oregon. Dana Altman's team is a 6.5-point favorite. That game will air at 10:10 Eastern, 7:10 Pacific for you Oregon fans on True TV. Oregon's interesting this year. They had some nice non-conference wins against ranked teams, Texas A&M and Alabama. But every time they played a ranked Big Ten team in the conference, they lost with one exception, and that was the recent overtime victory at Wisconsin, which was an impressive victory. Liberty's formula, defense and ball control. And they like to if they can keep this game in the 60s, any game in the 60s, they got a good chance of winning. That's kind of their formula. Oregon obviously is going to try and be high flying and score a lot more than that. All right. So those are the 8 Big Ten teams in where they're playing and what times. Now let's take a look at the women's. The first 4 got Washington, the 11 seed game. Washington taking on Columbia, both 11 seeds there. Friday in Spokane. Spokane and Birmingham are the 2 regions where the ladies play. UCLA gets the overall number 1 seed, and they play the winner of the 8-9 game between Richmond and Georgia Tech. Saturday, the 7 seed Michigan State takes on 10 seed Harvard, and then in the Birmingham region on Friday, the 8-9 game, 8 seed Utah taking on 9 seed Indiana. The winner faces the winner of the number 1 seed and defending national champion South Carolina versus 16 seed Tennessee Tech. 4 seed Maryland takes on 13 seed Norfolk State, and 7 seed Vanderbilt taking on 10 seed Oregon. And they play the winner of the number 2 seed Duke versus 15 Lehigh. Back in the Spokane bracket, on the Saturday startup, number 1 seed USC plays 16 seed UNC Greensboro. Number 6 Iowa taking on number 11 seed Murray State on Saturday, and then back to Birmingham for the other half of their round. The 8-9 game, Illinois is the 8 seed taking on Creighton, and that's on Saturday. The winner plays the number 1 seed Texas. Also, 4 seed Ohio State versus 13 seed Montana State on Friday, and 6 seed Michigan plays the winner of 3 seed Notre Dame and 14 seed SFA on Friday. And also, finally, the 7 seed Nebraska Cornhuskers taking on Louisville on Friday. So there you have it. 12 Big Ten teams making the women's tournament. So they got 12, the men got 8. Pretty good representation. You know, I still think the men should have gotten more, but good job by the women as well. All right, it was a very busy weekend around the Big Ten. You know, on Mondays, we like to do our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel. It's March Madness, guys. It's here. FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. March Madness, FanDuel, match made in heaven, right? Right now, new customers can get $200 of bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets in April. I know March Madness goes on to April these days. You pick your favorites. You can stay with the action, jump in during the game. FanDuel has an app that's easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So check it out. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Again, with FanDuel.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, and practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier, right? At Epicor, the All-Stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. That's right. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes is easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most of every hard-working minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, it's time now to take a look at our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. And what a busy, busy weekend it was. I'm going to put this on full screen if you're audio only. And you'll see if I left anything off. Maybe you can hit me up in the comments section, but we'll put this up here. This is loosely ranked 1 through 10. We'll start at 10 and go full screen with this. All right, first shout out goes to Purdue's Trey Kaufman-Wren. He matched a career high 30 points versus USC on Thursday in the Big Ten tournament. He has had a great season, no question about it. At number 9, a shout out to Illinois' Kylan Boswell, a career high 24 points as Illinois beat Iowa 106-94 in the second round, putting a 100 spot plus for Illinois in that game. At number 8, we'll want to talk about Michigan State's Jace Richardson. He scored 17 points versus Oregon in the quarterfinal game, and pretty instrumental. I mean, not 17, but they were very instrumental in that game. At number 7, Rodney Rice of Maryland got 26 points. By the way, Derek Queen also had 19 points and 10 rebounds in their win over Illinois in the quarterfinal. That was an impressive day by Maryland. I was talking about Illinois earlier. I think maybe we better put Maryland on our watch list here for the rest of this March tournament. Here's another guy. If you haven't seen play, Wisconsin's John Tonje. 6 3-pointers on his way to 26 points. Wisconsin, by the way, had 19 3-pointers versus UCLA in their quarterfinal game. So they were raining some threes, man. Again, they can score. They just didn't do any of that against Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, though. I'll tell you that. Speaking of Michigan, how about Danny Wolf? 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists versus Purdue on Friday in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament. And more Michigan. Trey Donaldson. How about that play? Just the play with the game-winning layup where he drove the court and hit the winning bucket with 0.4 of a second to go in their 81-80 win. And then at number 3, there's John Tonje again for Wisconsin. This time 32 points, 7 rebounds in the semifinal win versus Michigan State. Again, I reiterate, the guy's on fire. Michigan, congratulations to them, the men's champions. Look, again, still deciding I'd love to hear from you in the comments. The Big Ten championship game, was that a defensive classic, or was that kind of not a pretty basketball game? Nevertheless, they're going to hang a banner that says Big Ten tournament champions at Chrysler Arena. Dusty May's first year getting that. Congratulations to them. And finally, the last thing I'm going to put on here, shout out to UCLA women, not only a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament for the women's tournament, overall number 1 seed. So congratulations to them. They were ranked number 1 for most of the season anyway. Quite an impressive basketball season. So here we go. The table is set. How will the Big Ten do and represent in the NCAA tournaments for both men's and women's? We are ready to go with all that. We got you covered all the way on that as well. Don't forget to hit us up on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. The comments on YouTube. Don't forget our website, talkbig10.com, where all of our podcasts and merchandise are right there. And before you do anything else, hit that subscribe button, please. It's free. It requires no information. That way you'll never miss an episode of this podcast, Locked On Big Ten, your team every day, as soon as it's available each and every day. Also, shout out to our friends at Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton for all the latest of everything going on here in the month of March. Check them out with the Amazon Fire Stick. They got it's happening. Looks good, sounds good. You saw the promo earlier. Give those guys a big hand. That'll do it for us. The latest in spring football is going on too. We don't forget that here on Locked On Big Ten. So thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again tomorrow for Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. We'll talk to you next time.